Talking junk. Talking junk. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Look at that. Sometimes I hate saying this, but I'm no stranger to it because it always fucking happens. So, like I said, every week running, we're no strangers to technical difficulties. My mic wasn't on for the 2 minutes I was talking. So let's try that. One more go around because I'm pretty sure now you can hear my voice. So welcome back to Talking Junk. If you were looking for me for the past few weeks, you probably noticed the feed was quiet. And I'm going to be real with you. That was on purpose. I preach this stuff, right? I wrote the book on it, literally. Shut the junk up. And one of the biggest tools in our trash toolkit is the sacred pause. Sometimes the noise in the mental apartment gets too loud. The swarming pests start buzzing and the pressure builds. And if you do not step back just for a little bit and hit the pause, you're going to let the bursting trash bag explode. So I took a beat. I took some me time. Cleared out the room so I could come back here fresh. And since we're talking all about clearing out the room, let you in on a change we're making here because we're always a way small. I know you guys know that you and I have a love for the Breakroom podcast, but we're shifting gears because those guys can't really get their times lined up with me. So now we're just going to turn it into a segment. From now on, Talking Junk is more live in a new way. So it's going to the podcast you know and love to your new favorite segment at the end of every show. That is where we're going to decompress. That is where we talk about movies, pop culture, serial killers, all of that good stuff. This is where we just sit back and talk junk. So you get the coaching up front and the cool down at the back. And honestly, the little break I took last week is the perfect lead-in for the coaching time we are covering tonight, because tonight we're going just me in the studio tonight. Yes, because Macho is going to have to decompress himself. He needs to take a pause. TikTok, stop doing crazy stuff, bro. I want to stay on live, but if you're going to try to cover a podcast running, then I'm going to kick me off because we refuse to let go of this stream. Tonight's topic is emotional hoarding, right? Why we keep what hurts. Last episode, we talked about the intrusive thoughts. Those are the pests running around the floor. But tonight, based on chapter 5 of my book, where's the camera? We're looking at the boxes stacked floor to ceiling. in your mind. We're talking about your core beliefs, the past baggage, the past baggage that acts like the operating system. Why do we hold on to the hurt? Why do we hoard the pain? We're going to unpack all of that. And we're bringing the crew from the summit to help us break it down. So joining me remotely are Harry and Lisa Schenkel and Gene Harris. They're using art to clear the clutter, and we will be talking to them live. And stick around until the very end because we're opening the new Breakroom segment. We need to talk about Stephen King. Welcome to Derry and the work that Mike Flanagan is gearing up to take. So stay attuned because the mental apartment is open. The time is over, and we have got to do is start sorting right after this short, has to be short break from our sponsors.
Tired of constant negative self-talk? Shut the Junk Up is the hothead's guide to quieting the noise. Take back control, unleash your calm, and start your journey to a happier you. Grab your copy now.
All right, let's get into the main topic, emotional hoarding. If you've read my book, Chapter 5 of Shut the Junk Up, you know I asked you to become an archaeologist. I can't even say that word tonight. An archaeologist. What archaeologist? What is going on in my brain tonight? I can't read my own script. You see why we need to take that pause in life and decompress? Chapter 5 of Shut the Junk Up. You know, I asked you to become an archaeologist of your own psyche. We have to stop looking at just the anger and start looking at the foundation because the way you react today isn't just about what happened 5 minutes ago. It's a reflection of deeper beliefs and experiences that have filled your mental apartment over time. Think about your mind like a computer. Underneath all the reactions, there is an operating system running in the background. These are your core beliefs. Many of these were installed when you were young, especially if you dealt with ACEs. These beliefs are junk that tells you things like I'm not good enough, or I have to fight everything I get. For everything I get, or maybe I can't trust anyone. When you hold onto these beliefs, you're hoarding emotional junk. That hoarding leads to what I call an anger iceberg. Imagine an iceberg in the ocean. What you see above water, that is the blow up. That is the rage. That is the bursting trash bag. But the vast majority of the iceberg is hidden beneath the surface. That is the hoard. Beneath the anger, you'll find the hurt. You'll find the fear. You'll find the abandonment, the abandonment, the failure. Everything is there deep down in that iceberg. You'll find shame, guilt. You'll find powerlessness. We hoard these feelings because we think if we hide them, they can't hurt us. But the hoarder's house, the junk eventually takes. So tonight, I want you to ask yourself, what is the real pain underneath the anger? When you're ready to answer that, you're ready to start clearing it. Now, I told you we're going to unpack this with some help. We're connecting remotely tonight with people who are using creativity to clear the clutter. First up, joining me live via feed, we have Harry and Lisa from the Summit. Their focus is healing through art. Harry and Lisa, can you hear me tonight?
We can.
How you guys doing?
Great. How are you?
You got me? Can you hear us?
I seen you for a second there. I'm just having a little bit of time hearing you.
All right. How about now? We okay? We there?
I got you, but you guys are just a little bit choppy. We're there.
Okay.
We can make it work. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you good. Yeah.
All right. Now I want to start there with the concept of healing through art, because that's what you guys were talking about at the summit. That's your guys' niche. That's what you mainly do. Do I have that correct?
That's what Lisa does in particular. Yeah, I do more of the spiritual stuff, the church stuff.
Give me 1 second because I gotta get rid of this TikTok. I can't do it. It's making my stream a little too funky, and I can't hear you guys, so I want to hear you guys.
Okay.
All right. I think you guys should be coming off a little clearer now.
All right. How's this? A little better? We're good now?
A little bit better. Hopefully
Okay.
it comes off on the net nice and clear. Now you said you guys are typically into the church, and then you started doing the art therapy.
Yes. So I started doing this when I started with art therapy because when I was little, I was able to have a lot of healing through art. I had a lot of learning disabilities such as dyslexia and ADD, which was unheard of back then, right? Especially for a female. And one of my teachers had me actually teach the class how to draw a horse. And I remember standing up in front of the class and watching these kids who I thought were really brilliant and they could read really easily. And I started teaching them how to draw a horse using circles and squares and triangles, and just watching them settle down into themselves and be able to really grasp it. It brought me confidence, but it also brought them confidence. And so at a really small age, I realized how art helped me and would help them.
Perfect. I caught the tail end of that because StreamYard is acting up tonight. I had to reload that. Now, from what I got from the jumble, what StreamYard was feeding me was that you got into it and you started working with people with children that have ADHD and dyslexia and things of that sort, so they can get a feel for what was
Right.
it.
I actually had that, and then I was able to heal through teaching them, and then as an adult, I just kept going with that, and it wasn't just for special needs; it was for all people. And realizing that once they started drawing with me or painting with me, they were able to let go of any kind of challenges that they had, because you don't have to be the best person at paying attention. You don't have to be the best person at drawing a line. In fact, I can't draw a line. So through that, I'm able to build confidence and be able to let people just be in the moment, because you have to be very present.
Right. And it's perfect. Now I can hear you clearer. I love it.
And so with that, with bringing people present into that, then you realize that it's not just my voice and art that takes people into that present moment, but if you're really still the brain and able to focus on the artwork or focus on actually the word of God, we realized that together we had something really special to give to people.
Right. Now, how did you notice that together is where that program would flourish more, with bringing the word of God into the art program?
So one of my big things as a pastor is I want the church to be a sanctuary, a safe and welcoming place for all people of all backgrounds, all struggles, whatever it may be. And what makes it safe is when we set aside ourselves and we begin to tune into and listen to God and how God comes to us in the gifts of the church. And as I watched Lisa do her artwork, in particular, she does paint classes, and she will have 20 to 35 people in a class, and they'll be of all different various levels of confidence when it comes to artwork. And many of them will look at the blank canvas and start to almost get anxiety and filled with fear. How am I possibly going to do this? And they'd look at her picture in the front that was the sample, and I watched her talk them through it and tell them to set aside their fears, set aside themselves, set aside all the voices in their head and listen to her. And as I watched her do that and I watched them respond to her voice, I said, wow, this is exactly what I try to communicate to people when it comes to church and to God's word. Let God's word lead you. Listen to the voice of God. Let the voice of God's love and forgiveness and grace start replacing all those anxieties, all those fears, all those other voices that are in your head. And it just became this natural thing that when we were thinking about doing the ACEs thing, I said, this is what we got to do. This is how we got to do it.
Right. Right. There's a big connection with all of that, and there's no coincidences in life. I try to lead by that in my life. And once those connections are there, you have to kind of grab them and make them work.
Yep.
You came into the tail end of my little mini discussion that I kind of do on the podcast. In my book, I talk about the anger iceberg. We show the anger, but we hoard the hurt and the shame underneath. For a lot of people that hoard, it's so scary that they're afraid to even speak about it. Do you find that art allows you to access those hoarded feelings that words can't reach out? And is the canvas a safer place to dump the junk than a conversation?
Yeah. So when I was little and I would have trouble like expressing how I felt, a lot of times my teachers would give me a pen and a paper and I would doodle. And it's the same kind of concept even as an adult. When they're painting and I give them the time to just explore how they're feeling with like they don't have to follow me exactly. I'll give them time to actually do their own thing. And I'm always surprised at the conversations. Many of these people don't know each other and they've never met, yet they're having these really deep conversations over painting. And I think that's what it does, is it opens you up to have these different discussions, because your brain is just doing. You're busy, right? You're busy creating, and that opens up the brain to be able to talk and share things about that you wouldn't normally share.
Right. And I love that. Now let's talk about the process real quick. Emotional hoarding is about holding on. It is static, it's heavy, but art is creation, it's movement. When you're in that creative flow, do you physically feel a release of that weight? And does the art effectively empty the bursting trash bag so you don't have to carry it anymore?
Yes. So I think with anything that you're going to be doing, that you're creating, something that's coming in from your brain, right? So even though you're looking at a picture and you're trying to copy that picture, your mind is actually letting you release other feelings. And so I sometimes will do the same painting in the same month, right? So I'll teach different groups, and I can tell that when I'm where I was in that month. Sometimes my painting is really light and fluffy and happy, and sometimes my lines are really sharp. And that's everybody. Everybody's going to have that. Even though you're painting the same picture, it's not going to be the same for everybody, and it's not going to be the same depending on the day. And I think that
aspects are different.
Yeah,
perspectives are different.
It's kind of like when you read the Bible, right? It's like you all of a sudden will read something and it means something. Like when I used to read the Bible when I was younger, the meaning and translation to it now in my everyday life is totally different, right? You get that same message.
I think only what was different about it was your life journey. So now you have a different perspective on it.
Exactly.
I think what I've noticed with her artwork also is that she has people who come back repeatedly, even though they did the painting already, because they feel safe, because they like what's happened to them while they do the work with her and they listen to her. And it's fascinating to watch, because they're just like, yeah, I just want to come back and do this because I'm so relaxed. I'm so relieved. I look forward to this all week. And so it's that outlet that I think what you're talking about, the hoarding, the emotional hoarding, starts to get unpacked, but they're not even realizing that they're doing that, because it's a time where they're relieved from all the anxiety and the burden of those things that are inside of them.
Yeah, I also try to teach in my book, what I spoke about in the beginning of my conversation was the sacred pause. Sometimes you have to take a pause in whatever you're doing, whether it's a conflict situation or it's everyday life. You need to kind of pause, take a breather, take a break, and reevaluate what's going on. Maybe you need to relax, or maybe you need to get focused on a singular topic. But either way, you need to take that pause, that time out.
Exactly. I think watching people come in week after week, I noticed that, a lot of people will be like, well, some people on a Friday love to just go out to a bar or a restaurant, or they go and play pickleball, or whatever they're going to play or do. This is just in one of those outlets that's healthy. It's good for your brain and good for your mind, and you're always meeting new people. And I think that by letting that outlet and just resting the mind from their week and starting their weekend out with a little bit of art is helpful for them.
That's amazing.
And ending it on Sunday is always good,
right,
too.
And when you look at the history of the church, you see the connection, the intertwining between the church and art and artisans. And you think about the chapel in Rome. You think about all the stained glass that are in, and how this becomes expressions not only of the faith, but for those artists, that was their way of dealing with their junk while responding to what they believe were the gifts of God coming to them. So it's a natural part of God's design, I think, for us and for the creation, that we express ourselves and we work through our stuff through those gifts, especially art.
Now, while you're talking about God's design, while it's on the tip of your tongue, I have to ask about the relationship dynamic, because you guys do this as a unit. In chapter 5, I talk about the stories we tell ourselves, the core beliefs. Sometimes we believe we have to carry the burden alone. How has using art changed the way you communicate with each other? Does it help you clear the air in your shared mental apartment better than just talking it out?
I think it becomes an expression of our relationship. You're looking at a painting behind us that Lisa did here in our house, and it's a 3D painting that goes into the bathroom that's behind it. And these are the type of things we're able to do in our relationship. When we got into the house here a few years ago, I said, that wall needs a painting. And I said, what do you think about this, and this? And next thing I know, she's there with a pencil, and then she's there with the paint. And this conversation that just started with a what do you think has turned into this incredible artwork that is all over our house. And so it's one of those bonding creative outlets in our relationship. So it's all over the place. Like on the back of our camper, she painted the wheel cover with our camper and the name of our camper. And so it's who we are, it's part of that walk together. And it's one of the gifts that she gives, because I have absolutely no artistic skill at all. Stick figures is what I draw.
Unless you're with me.
Hey,
Unless, yeah.
Stick figures are a form of art, believe it or not. There are some past stick figure arts out there, videos. There are games solely on stick figures. So
Yeah, you're right.
Don't sell yourself short. Now, when did you guys notice the ACEs situation?
It was you.
Yeah. So I was commissioned to go and teach a painting with Cindy. And so I went. It was supposed to be a 2-hour gig, just going in, teaching a paint class and leaving. I got there around 10 in the morning and it was a smaller summit. It was probably about 60 people. And after the painting was done and I cleaned up, I sat down and I just was listening. And before you know it, I was there the entire time. I just was really connected to the people. I was just in awe of their stories and what they've come through. I myself grew up in a very beautiful home. I didn't grow up with what they did, but realizing that was such a big part of their lives, and that I was able to help with their journey just that little bit, just made me keep in touch with Cindy. And then I started doing more and more of these for her. And then when she was talking about getting authors to come and speak, and I had told her about my husband and Harry and I and our story, he did have a lot of similar stories that I had heard that day in his life. So, and then he had his own book, just different ways of dealing with being a pastor and having our oldest son come out being gay and changing church bodies so he would be accepted. And there was a lot of journey in this whole life that we've built together, that, even though I didn't grow up that way, seeing him and reading his book and then seeing these other people, I felt very connected and felt just very in tune to helping, and what could I do? And she welcomed me, which I loved.
That's one thing about Cindy.
Yeah.
When she speaks, she hooks you, not just with her words, but with her voice. Once you hear her, you can't unhear it, and you're drawn to whatever she's saying.
Yep.
It could be the alphabet, but the way she says it, it draws you in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once you're hooked on ACEs, once you get involved with ACEs and learn about it, there's no way that you can take it out of your mind or out of anything that you're doing. It's in everyday life.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So
now, do you find that you put ACEs in some of the teachings you do in church as well now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always been a part of my ministry and how I help people out, but we never called it ACEs, right? We called it dysfunction.
We called it generational curses or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You know, and you look in the passages of scripture, especially the meaning of the commandments, the 10 commandments, where it says the sins of the fathers are passed on to the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me, but God shows love to thousands of generations of those who love me. And as I read that from Exodus chapter 20, that is just basic, simple family psychology and dynamics. Is that's what happens with brokenness, with sin, dysfunction, with pain and trauma in families. It's not just the person who first experienced it. That's passed on, and it can take many generations for those things to start cleaning out the junk in the basement,
if it even ever does.
if ever.
Sometimes
an object in motion remains in motion unless acted on by an outside force. And that's where I approach it from the spiritual point. For me, the outside force that helps to clean that stuff out is God, is God's grace. And you know, so much of that baggage, that emotional hoarding, is the shame, the guilt, the unworthiness. And that's the whole, when you boil down what's the message of the Christian faith, what the cross and the resurrection, the empty tomb are about. It's not about being perfect people, keeping the commandments and all the rules that God laid down perfectly. It's about God freeing us from the baggage, from the emotional hoarding, from the shame, and from the agony that holds us back and traumatizes ourselves and our children and our grandchildren and so on.
Right. And I try to teach sometimes that the beliefs you grew up with you're not tied to them. If they don't serve you anymore, you can let them go. Case in point, and I don't mean to, forgive me if I'm out of line, but when you switched churches, it was for the good of your son.
Absolutely.
You wanted to be able to have your son in your life. So looking at it in a different aspect was the only way to do it.
That's right. And, you know, it wasn't a light decision. I had to wrestle with the church's views on all sides. And I had to come to a place where I was comfortable with that. And it also meant I had to change my perspective and the way I had come to believe and understand and learn things. And on that journey, which has been 18, 20 years now, I've come total reversal of where I was, 25, 30 years ago when I first became a pastor.
Now you're yourself, because all of those things that you were letting go, those skins, so to speak, that you were shedding, they weren't your beliefs. Those were just things that you were taught.
Right.
Something that was brought up around you, not necessarily something that you believed in yourself until it boiled down to it.
And what I was driven by is I go into this in my book, in my journey story, is my father's voice was not a kind and loving voice, and it was very loud in my head. And I knew when I had my own children, but especially as my oldest Harrison was coming to terms with who he was as an early teenager, that I was not going to be who my father was to me. And it didn't matter if I was a pastor or what I was first a father, and I was going to love him and support him and be there for him, no matter what, no matter where the journey of life took both of us.
Absolutely. That's what matters. That's what counts. And I love that, because ever hear of cases like yours. You hear more of the, okay, see you later. You're not my son anymore.
Yeah.
I will see you later. You go about your business. You go about your life. We will go our separate ways. I believe what I believe, and that's law.
Yeah. And that's heartbreaking, because I don't think that's at the heart of who Jesus is. When you look at, he sat with the prostitutes, the tax collectors, the people that were the outcasts, the lepers, and it was never a judgment. It was I'm here for you who are hurting, who are broken, and who need to know you are loved and you are not alone.
Right. How can, and it's that always, I've never been one to be tied to a church, to any denomination. I believe in spirituality, I believe in God, and I believe in the things that I believe in. But one of the things that always turned me off about the church people was the hypocrisy of it. You're speaking of, and I don't mean to, this is not anything.
No, you preach it, brother. You preach it.
You go.
But I'm just saying, you want to be able to, you're preaching that you need to forgive. Your God is forgiven. Everybody needs to be forgiven and given a second chance to mend whatever was wrong. But you're ready to shun somebody out at the moment you don't like something that they're doing in their life. So what are you really teaching?
Yep. No, I lament, and that makes my job harder than anything else, is when the church is its own worst enemy. And this is why, in our Lutheran persuasion, we really try to default to the grace and the mercy of God more than anything else. Like, we'll talk about God's expectations, the commandments, and the more we can live our lives by God's expectations and rules, the smoother life will be in theory. But that's not the point of our faith or the church. The point is that we're broken. The world is broken. We all sin and fall short of the glory of God. And that's why we needed the Savior to come into the world. And that's why he continues to come to us through the gifts of the church. And so I'm constantly trying to put that first and foremost in everything that I bring to the people as I serve as a pastor, in the hopes that that's how they live and that's what they do as they interact with others. Do we always get it right? No, we don't.
We're human.
But it's, a little bit each day, a little bit of light in the darkness of the world can go a long way.
And if looking at us is any testament to how God isn't as perfect as people think he is, he created us. We create things every day that aren't perfect. We're not perfect ourselves. So therefore, himself isn't perfect. He makes mistakes himself. There are things that he's done in this world that I'm sure he regrets, but he's learned from it. And that's why there are good things in this world also.
And he works in all things for good. All things for good.
Yeah, people don't think about that. People just go on about the solid core beliefs that are ruining. They're ruining open thought. You need to be able to take these beliefs and expand on it. They're there for your foundation, not to pigeonhole you to them.
That's right. That's exactly right. And when you think about it, the best and most important lessons we learn in life are not the easy things, not the things that we just follow blindly. It's coming through the tough times. It's learning from our mistakes. And that's what grace is. That's what mercy is. That's the power of God's presence in our lives, is that in those most tragic and difficult times, God is bringing us through good. As much as I wish my life was different and I had grown up differently, I thank God every day for those experiences, because I am who I am today, and I'm a better father and a pastor, not because it was easy, not because I always had it right or God's word was always perfectly kept in my life, but because I got through the tough times and I knew I wasn't alone. And God sent different gifts, different people, different lessons that have given me a sense of peace that the world cannot give.
Exactly. And you've made mistakes along the way.
Oh, terrible mistakes. And
but
continue to do so. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't hoard them, you let them go.
Right.
Because you learned from them.
And that's the
Could you
freedom.
imagine, right. But could you imagine if the world, as soon as you were born, operated on a Me Too movement type of status? Nobody would ever evolve or
Oh,
learn more
canceling,
before.
cancel culture. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. But that's the world we live in now, right? You can't make a mistake. Nobody apologizes, right? Nobody takes accountability for anything. And if you do, you're done. You're done.
Right.
And that's when we start our liturgy every time we're in the church, we don't start with all the holiness stuff. We start by saying we are sinners who are here because we struggle and we need God's grace. It's a reminder to all of us that we're not here to look over our nose at the person 3 seats in front of us and say, I hope you're hearing this. We're saying, I'm here because I got junk and I need this before anyone else needs to hear it from me. And so that's the power of Christianity when it's in its purest form, I believe. And when you've got Christ and the cross and the empty tomb as the lens, the glasses through which you read and look at everything else in life, you set aside the holiness and the perfection and the need to be better than everyone else. And hopefully it leads to a humble walk and a walk of gratitude for the things that you do have in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. I want to thank you first and foremost for coming on. We do have another guest that's scheduled to come on at 8:30.
Yep.
Jean Terrace. You might have met her from the summit. You guys are more than welcome to stay and continue the conversation. The more, the merrier. But I do want to give you guys your individual time to plug and promote not just your beliefs, but your church, your art practice, whatever there is. Oh, your book, whatever else you can offer my audience in the world. This is your time to shine. Let me see.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah. So, Paint with Lisa, one word, is my Instagram, and you just reach out to me that way, and we book a party, and I come to you.
And I'm the pastor of St. Stephen Lutheran Church in Longwood, Florida. It's a northeast suburb of downtown Orlando. It's about 30 minutes from Disney World. And I've written the book Sanctuary, Raw Confessions of One of God's Imperfect Servants. You can get it on Amazon. It's in print form. It's in Audible audio version form. And it's a powerful message and story about how God's hand has been cupped around me during many challenging times in my life, in my ministry, in my family. And the church, in spite of all its flaws, has been that safe place that has sustained me and helped me.
Amazing. Thank you guys very much. Now, like I said, you're more than welcome. We're going to cut to a small commercial break. Audience is going to get mad at me because I'm going to let it kind of loop for a second to see if our guest is actually coming on. If not, if you're up for it and you are willing to stay, we can probably extend this interview a little longer and you can come on. If she does come on, we can extend the interview a lot longer. As much as you're willing to stay on, I am willing to grab the little bits and pieces of your mind.
Yeah, we're happy to stay on, and thank you for this opportunity, Jason. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
it is my pleasure, and we will be right back.
Tired of constant negative self-talk? Shut the Junk Up is the hothead's guide to quieting the noise. Take back control, unleash your calm, and start your journey to a happier you. Grab your copy now. Tired of constant negative self-talk? Shut the Junk Up is the hothead's guide to quieting the noise. Take back control, unleash your calm, and start your journey to a happier you. Grab your copy now.
Again, at the beginning of the episode, it happened like this too. I spoke for 3 minutes before I unmuted my mic. I don't have a confirmation of a cancellation, but we'll keep it going if you're up for it. I got a couple more questions here that I just wrangled up. We talk about the roots of our junk, these core beliefs and the past baggage from ACEs. When one of you gets triggered and the bursting trash bag threatens to explode, is the argument ever actually about the present, or is it always about the past baggage one of you is holding? And the art, has it helped you identify that difference?
Ooh.
We don't really argue.
No, we don't, because we talk a lot. And,
we do talk
and,
a lot.
I figured, honestly, that you guys really didn't argue. You don't look like that.
But, we've both been divorced. And that, I read about that in the book, In the Journey. And we came together because we were friends first, friends who just talked constantly about everything. And for me, Lisa was that safe place that I could talk about anything personal, professional, that I had nowhere else to talk about. So that's a bit of our artwork together. And when I held up the book before, one of the things is the cover artwork here. You see, Lisa did that. She painted it. I can actually show you the original picture. And then we had a graphic artist turn it into a stained glass window. And what she did is as I was writing the book and she was reading the book, she then started to sketch out and paint the picture. And each of the figures are people in the story, in my family, in my past. So you can have a little fun with it, kind of analyzing, oh, who's that in the background and who's that in the forefront and where am I and where's my son and how does that all play out with the rest of the kids? And so that communication that we have has been a form of artful expression, because for her, she'll often take it and run with it and put it into something visual.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Jean has entered the building.
All right, there you go.
Amazing. Now let's move from the canvas to the writing of the brain itself. Joining us now remotely for our second block is Jean Terrace. She specializes in neurographic art therapy. We got it wrong for the summit. We kept calling it, I think it was just art therapy or something like that. Jean, welcome to Talking Junk. How are you today? Can you hear us okay?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Doing fine. I'm doing fine. I'm glad that you decided to join us tonight to expand the conversation from the summit. I know it's probably been a long week.
Yes.
Now, I'm excited to talk to you because your work details directly with the brain. And in chapter 6 of my book, I talk about ACEs, which we've all been hooked by Cindy's pitch, her golden tongue. And I talk about how trauma literally wires our brains to be on high alert. For the listeners who don't know, can you explain how neurographic art works?
So there's a lot to art therapy. That's just a little piece of art therapy that I do with my groups and my clients. But with the ACEs program, I decided to use that as the focus for the group. So it just it kind of relaxes the brain. And if you think of like neurons in a brain, it's all those little, threads. So what the neurographic art is doing is actually relaxing the brain and bringing you into a meditative type state. So it's the repetitive line making and intersections that you're softening. So the whole method is just a really great exercise to do when you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, anxious. It's great. PTSD, things like that, where you need that sense of calm.
Amazing. Now, is it true that you're actually using this art form to rewire those neural pathways and change the operating system?
I mean, it's been known to work on people. I think that part of it is the climate, wherever you're actually at making the art, what is your environment like, but it can absolutely bring you. I don't know that there's actual studies showing the brain waves, but it is associated with that, and it's actually kind of new to the United States. It's only been around since 2014, so.
Everything's new to the United States.
Yeah, always the last.
Always. Now, this episode, we've kind of mainly been talking about emotional hoarding as a blockage, like a
Mhm.
clogged pipe in your mental apartment. We get stuck in these loops of intrusive thoughts, or what we call swarming pests. How does that specific technique of neurographic art, the rounding of the corners and the lines, help to break the loop and get the energy moving again?
I think it forces you to just try something different. So number one, it's coming out of that comfort zone and really putting, the main purpose is distracting the brain. So trying something new and the whole method of it. I mean, I've done neurographic art dozens of times, and every single time it's different. So you think that you may know, oh, this is my next move, but actually that whole not planning stage, it really kind of it allows this freedom to come in and just like release. So you're letting everything go and just allowing for I guess it's just a flow. It's like a flow state. So that's why it works so well with so many different populations, and every age group, literally.
Now, in your practice, when someone starts drawing and following the lines, do you see them finally unlocking these doors? How does this therapy help them face hoarded trauma without being re traumatized by it?
Um, I don't always see it. It is not every single session that I have with a client. And those breakthroughs, it's really dependent on why they're coming to me. And like I had said, art therapy encompasses so many different avenues. Neurographic art is just one little street that I use with my clients. But it could be a material that's being used with the client that is triggering and brings them to a memory. It could be something even like a smell from a material we're using. So it varies. There's like no one answer for that. So yeah.
I get it. I'm using a whole new script form for some of these questions. So
Mhm.
some of them even catch me off guard in the way they present in the conversation.
Okay.
Um, I know you keep talking about neurographic art is just one avenue you use. And forgive me if you've already stated this, but can you just give us a breakdown of some more avenues that you use?
So in art therapy, there's actually assessments. So coming into a session with somebody new or they're fairly new to working with me, I love using assessments with them so I can kind of dig into attachment styles. Where are they coming from? What does the family unit look like? And these are things that we can use specific assessments that we learn in our master's program that can be used, under obviously the guidance of a certified art therapist. But these are usually like stories that we are telling. So, for example, there's one, and I had shown it actually at the summit, to my group, was the bird's nest drawing, which shows the instructions are draw a bird's nest. And it basically shows how they are attached in that family unit. And there's so much information that I can get from just that drawing itself. So,
Ooh,
between assessments, and it just depends on, again, why are you coming to me? So from there, it's like my job to figure out like what materials we're going to use, what directive I'm going to give to you. It could be something as like simple as a breath drawing where I'm trying to relax you and I want to see that progression in your lines and, you know, how is that looking? How are you feeling overall?
Okay. Okay. Lisa, is that an approach that you see yourself using as well?
No. So mine's a little bit different only because I have a sample of what they're going to be painting, and then we just go with it. So how they're painting, I'm more looking at them and picking up their painting and showing them that they can make it look like that, and taking a step back and building their confidence through it. I find this fascinating. I love this.
Now, I'm fascinated on it too. Now, Jean, if you're willing, would you mind walking us through that exercise? Maybe the was it the bird's nest? You can figure out something from that.
So, I mean, as in a group, so to be honest, I would not do that in a group setting. It is an individual because there's always a story behind it and it's personal. But basically, it's great with children. It's great with people who are just having trouble expressing their emotions. So it could be anything. Traumatic brain injury. I had somebody recently with that. So the instructions are just draw a bird's nest. Now, things you have to consider are where do they live? So some people live in a city and they'll put a bird's nest on like a window ledge. So as I know it, as I grew up with it, you know, a bird's nest is in a tree and a branch. So things that we look for, you know, as the art therapist are, you know, what is the nest made of? What's in the nest? Because believe it or not, some people don't put anything in the nest. We look to see, are there actual birds around the nest? And you know, if there are things in the nest, what's in the nest? And it's a whole story that can come out. And I had examples that I had shown of from two kids that one was suffering from the loss of a sibling as well as a new marriage in the family. And then another one, she was sexually abused by a grandfather. And the things that come out in these drawings that none of them wanted to talk, but I found out after the fact. So it's really, really interesting. The assessment part of it is always like the way I start, because that's how I'm going to get in and figure out which direction I'm going to go with you. So.
Wow.
I have actually a practical example of this from my life.
Okay.
When I switched over the church bodies because of my son, we were talking about this with Jason earlier. I had to go through a whole battery of psychological tests, and one of them was I had to do some drawings, and one of the drawings was draw a self-portrait, which I'm not a very good artist, like I said earlier. And so I drew this self-portrait, and on the self-portrait, I had made my left shoulder bigger than my right shoulder. And the therapist looked at it and she said, "You have a problem with your left shoulder, don't you?" And I was stunned, and I stopped for a minute, and I needed surgery on the shoulder. I'd been living with shoulder pain for years because I was afraid of the surgery. And from this picture that was supposed to evaluate whether or not I could go over to this new church body, she figured out I had a shoulder problem. And I was blown away by it and amazed by it. But she explained that the emotional was manifesting itself then in the picture that I had drawn.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that is really amazing. And I have to say, I'm not a drawer of people. So I usually don't give that make a self-portrait. If I do go that route, I actually do collage, or I give them torn paper and have them create, because I do feel there's a lot of pressure in drawing. Like you had said, like I'm not good at drawing, believe it or not. I'm an artist, and drawing like people or it's not my forte at all. But super interesting that she kind of like diagnosed like that, and how accurate it was too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're telling me.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out how I would draw the nest. I have so many different nests in my brain right now. I'm like, do I put the eggs in, and then is it the side of the nest, or am I looking down at the nest? Honestly, I have been like, that's all I've been focusing on, and I'm like,
I'm glad it's not just me.
okay. Would my eggs be blue? Why are my eggs blue? There's something wrong with me. These are like.
And there's
So
no
what are-
right, yeah, there's no right or wrong to that, by the way. But yeah, obviously there's things we just look for, because is the main question is the nest secure where it is at, where they portray it? You know, is it actually like realistic, or, you know, so just little things like that. So
It's really cool. Really cool.
I've been thinking about taking an introduction to psychology, and this right here is just fueling it a little more.
there you go.
It's-
I hope so.
It sounds amazing. Now, what are some other things that you use to kind of get people where you can get them to a set plan on what to do, a little a diagnosis of sorts? Because I know you said you use this introduction as a sort of diagnosis to see what they're ailing from to get the plan going. But once you have that, and most of the time I know you're probably correct in your assumptions, but once you have the plan going, where do you really see everything rocking? That was a long-winded question. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. You know, again, it's individual. So sometimes that bird's nest drawing is a stepping stone to another assessment where I will do. So say it's showing me that there's some kind of insecure attachment in the family system. So the next thing is another assessment that I may do, maybe not the next session, but I would space it out, which is basically showing the family. So it is draw your family, everyone in your family, including yourself, doing something. And here you again, deep dive. Like, I'll give an example, was this little girl that I've worked with recently, and she drew her mother, herself, and her brother at a lake, and they were all swimming, but her dad was on the opposite end of the page in a boat with the two dogs. And as I have worked with her and met the family, I absolutely see without seeing it. I see the dynamic with the father, and it's just these like aha moments, and she doesn't have to say anything. I just like, I saw her drawing and I'm like, I get it, you know. So it's like filling the puzzle. It's actually really, really interesting. So
I hope when my kids draw our family, I'm on the same page.
yeah, now you're gonna be like, ooh, you really need that.
Don't draw.
No draw, because now I want to know.
Yeah.
Now I want to know how to read these drawings.
Well, there's
Now-
also like, even like there are neurologists that use the clock drawing, and that is for schizophrenia. So I actually also work in the mental health profession at a psych ward. And, you know, I'm so tempted, but I'm almost a little worried because I already know their diagnosis going in when I'm working with them, and I'm doing just behavioral health, not art therapy. But the clock drawing can tell if you have schizophrenia and even Alzheimer's. So these.
Okay. Time out, Gene. I know. Listen. My life is already on this podcast for almost 5 years already. People know everything. If I go get a piece of paper and a pencil, will you put me through these tests?
The clock drawing, I'm going to just be honest, you're not going to fail that. This is actually for brain function. So I'm going to guess that.
I don't know. You'd be surprised.
So
My brain functions differently.
You can absolutely try it, but I can guarantee you, unless there's something I'm missing, I would say you're not my candidate for that. And again, I have to be.
I don't think there's anything that you're missing, but there may be a lot that I'm missing.
You could.
Well,
then I'll give you the name of a good neurologist. No, I mean, there's sometimes if you're stuck with a patient and really are like, I'm teetering on Alzheimer's, but yeah. They're not able to place the numbers in the hands where they should. And it's just a really interesting, yeah.
Because I work in the ALF, and half of the ALF downstairs is a memory care unit. So I do work with those demographics as well.
You're going to go down there and have them draw a clock.
No. I'm not. I like to be the light of their day, because I'm the life safety director there. So when I walk through, I like to just joke with them. Give them a good laugh. Yeah. I'm not going to make their brain work even harder. So that's a lot of hats you wear.
I like it. I like because I do have the dual masters, and I did it on purpose because I think that with the art therapy, you do need that mental health background, because not that I cannot diagnose formally. I can't like say, hey, you need to, but I can absolutely give my insight. And I can see things because it only makes my work easier if I kind of know what I'm working with. And most of the people that I work with, like I said, in the hospital, I'm yesterday worked with a lot of kids and actually did an art activity, which I don't typically do because it's a crisis center, and it's just not conducive. But I wanted to do something for Thanksgiving, and you get the complaints, but overall, like, they were pretty chill and relaxed, and that's kind of my job there. Way different than working with private clients because that's the concentration. But behavioral health is grounding. It's really humbling as well. So seeing other walks of life and how blessed I am to not be there, also that my kids are happy and healthy. So it's really like powerful to do it. I don't mind being there. I make my own schedule, which helps a lot. So I pick and choose the days that I feel like I can do it. So it is tough. It's very tough, but
It's amazing. So these are just all different versions of the ink blot test, basically.
yeah. And I'll work with a patient, just do it. I do a lot of groups, and just talk about behavioral health mainly. But I just sit there and I'm like, you would be a good patient. You would be like, there are so many. And I have to say the people with schizophrenia are like the best patients. They do such amazing art. Yeah. And it's just like I said,
You're not the first person I've heard say that.
yeah. Yeah. Especially when they're in like having hallucinations. It's just interesting. It's so interesting because it's like a mile a minute and they're just pouring out onto paper, and it's yeah.
Have you seen them?
Yes.
Because you see this a lot in movies. Now, do they typically draw or paint the things that they're seeing?
Yes. And there's actually a few people I do follow online that are like actively schizophrenic, and they're actually drawing their hallucinations. Now, like I said, I have not worked in this hospital doing art therapy, but when I was living in Texas last year, I did work. I had implemented the art therapy program for a hospital, and I was in it. I was watching them, and I wouldn't disturb, so if they came in for group and we had a directive we were doing and they went off, I would just, to the point where they would fill the paper, and it was just imagine your mind racing and you don't know what to do with it. And that's kind of what it is. And some of them, they are so specific with, they know the voice that's attached to the image, and it's incredible. And I do think that it calms them because they're able to express it, but they don't want to, most of them don't really want to talk about it. Not in that moment. They just want to release it. So.
Now, that was going to be a question, and I think you just kind of touched on it, because I know a lot of schizophrenics aren't just visual. Some of them just have auditory hallucinations.
Mm-hmm.
Can they paint just what they hear without seeing it?
Absolutely. I think it's volume. And I think that you can put color to that noise. So, even just giving them the right medium. They love markers and they like colored pencil, and they just, mainly. I have used acrylic paint. That's also effective, but it's just wherever they're at. One thing I have not worked is like clay. I have not worked with somebody experienced like hallucinations with clay, but I could only imagine. Clay is another big triggering thing that people don't realize, depends on your population, that you just have to be super careful because people don't get it. They don't get it. So.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting. Now, I don't want to take up too much of your time, because a woman with all those hats on don't have any time for herself. Before I let you go.
Okay.
What was that?
No, I said you're fine. I I don't have to be at work.
Oh, okay.
30. I'm good.
Now, I did have some more questions planned, but those questions went straight out the window because of everything we were just talking about. Now, I do want to dive. No, don't be sorry at all. It's very interesting, and I would love to pick your brain a little bit more on the subject. But I do want to see if by chance maybe we can schedule a full hour block and you put me through some of these tests.
Tests on you? Ooh, which ones do I do?
Any one you want. Any of them.
There
All
are
of them.
many. There are many assessments. So, okay.
I am open to
I'll
them all.
throw it at you.
Now, we used to have another show called the Breakroom where we would just do things like this. We'll have people on. We've had hypnotists on. We've had people that read cards. We've had different things on. We're starting now. I'm trying to set up the Talking Junk podcast as a radio show type of format. I do my little spiel talking by myself in the beginning. I have wonderful people on like you guys in the middle of my block. And at the end is where I'm bringing the Breakroom back as a sort of decompression, maybe 20 minutes to a half hour block. I do not mind making that a full hour block and having you for the Breakroom session and just decompressing in that manner.
Cool. Sounds
So
good.
when you have my link, you put it on the calendar whenever you are free.
I will do that. Okay.
Yes, please do. But before you go, I do want to extend the invitation I extended to Harry and Lisa. I need you to tell the world where to find you because they need you. I need you. I'll get to that, but they need you. Where can they find you?
So my website, arttherapybygene.com. I'm on every social media platform, but if you go to my website, you can link through those, through that site. And that's it. But I'm in Greater Orlando area if you want to do in person, but I also do virtual visits and I do consulting as well. If you have an art business that you are looking for maybe some grant funding and need assessments done with your clients, that is me. I'm your girl.
Amazing. Amazing. You guys are making me wish I never left Florida. Honestly.
Where are you?
I am now in Massachusetts.
Oh,
Oh, it's cold there.
It is cold.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm a New York Bronx boy anyway, so I'm used to it.
Me
You
too.
just lived out.
Yeah.
Are you? Where are you from
Jersey.
originally?
Jersey. My son is at UMass right now. So
Okay.
And we're Long Islanders.
there you go.
Nice.
So you got all New Yorkers here today.
That's
Yeah.
right. We
We
just
got
were the smart ones.
Yeah, we got a partial New Yorker up there. New Jersey doesn't count as New York.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I lived in Manhattan 10 years, so that
That
technically
counts.
That counts.
That counts. Harlem girl. That counts. Now, but before I let this lovely trio go off the Talking Junk airwaves, I don't want to be rude. You guys stuck through the whole interview. Do you guys have any questions for Gene?
No, I find this fascinating. I'm totally going to look at your website. Really cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
I
you
love
guys
it.
are totally welcome to join us on that podcast.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, we
yeah.
might. I'll take those tests again.
It sounds interesting. Thank you
Oh,
guys so much
appreciate
for gracing the airwaves and beaming down for us. I enjoyed the conversation immensely. We are going to switch into the break room segment. You guys are welcome to join if you want. I don't know if you are privy to the topic, but we are going to try to break down what is happening in the pop culture smash hit Welcome to Derry. And I am going to let everybody know some of the things that Mike Flanagan has going on in the Stephen King universe.
Well, thank you, Jason.
Thank you guys
Thank you
very
so
much
much for having
coming on.
us.
Appreciate it.
It was all my pleasure, and I will be back with you guys in a minute. Thank you. Thank you. I love you guys. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tired of constant negative self-talk? Shut the Junk Up is the hothead's guide to quieting the noise. Take back control, unleash your calm, and start your journey to a happier you. Grab your copy now.
All right. Why is that still on there? Get out of here. The heavy lifting is done. The junk is sorted. Now it is time to open the door to your new favorite segment. And I will be bringing the hit smash intro back for the segment. It's just been a long week and I haven't had a chance to do it. But let's head into the break room. I want to talk about the Stephen King universe because things are getting interesting. And if you're watching the HBO Max series, Welcome to Derry, you know what's happening. We are a few episodes in, and it is a prequel set in the 60s, showing us the history of Pennywise. But here's what I love. They're doing the universe justice. We're seeing connections to Shawshank State Prison. We're seeing the world built out. But the key here, the linchpin holding this whole King universe together right now is a character named Dick Halloran. If you're watching Welcome to Derry, you see a young Dick Halloran investigating the darkness. Now, why does this matter? Because Mike Flanagan, the director, who's basically the King Whisperer right now, already fixed the Dick Halloran problem. In the Shining book, Halloran lives. In the Shining movie, he dies. In the movie Dr. Sleep, Flanagan had Halloran's ghost teach Danny Torrance, honoring both the book and the movie. And now we have Welcome to Derry. Given his origin story, this character is the bridge, and this all leads to the big one, the Dark Tower. Mike Flanagan is working on a 5-season series for Amazon, and his whole philosophy is you just do the books. He is building what he calls an oil tanker because the project is so massive. The fact that we are seeing Halloran treated with this much respect across different shows and movies tells us one thing. They are finally taking the time to do the Stephen King universe right. Almost like, and some will argue because a lot of people don't think they're doing most of these things right, but it's almost like a Stephen King multiverse like the Avengers are doing, because it is a multiverse if you get down to it, if you really know the lore. And just like we talked about earlier with emotional hoarding, you cannot build a new house until you respect the foundation. Flanagan respects the foundation. And this is it for me tonight. Okay. If there's one thing I'm going to leave you with, it's to go check these things out. Check out Gene. Check out Harry and Lisa. Check out the Talking Junk, everything, but definitely decompress and check out the Stephen King universe. If you don't know where to start, then Welcome to Derry is a place to start. It's taking you back and it's giving you lore, not just on Dick Halloran, but it's giving you lore also for the characters of its family before these characters were born. They already killed Stan's uncle. I don't care. Spoilers. Go watch the damn thing. It's going to help you. Right? My wife just told me a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't understand why I was drawn particularly to the horror genre. But depressed people love horror movies because it gives you a thrill, almost like you're on a roller coaster, almost like an adrenaline rush, but you're not quite an adrenaline junkie. Right? That's it for me, man. Remember to check your core beliefs. Don't hoard the hurt. And if the noise gets too loud, take that sacred pause. I am the Junk Guru. Follow me on all social media, Talking Junk Network, and I am going to be here every single week as much as I can, unless I need to take a sacred pause, because you can't blame me for taking the things that I'm telling you to take for your mental health, because I need it too. But if one thing from my shorts is true, in order to shut this junk up, we got a lot of fucking work to do. So keep coming back. Great guests, great segments, great conversations, and the break room is back, bitches. Always at the end of the show to decompress. These segments are going to be longer when I have people here to talk to. But as long as I only have me and you, it's going to be short and sweet. Unpack everything from this episode. Watch it a few times if you have to, or just wait for the shorts that are going to come out later on. But definitely unpack all of this information, whether it's the first half when I'm talking about my coaching stuff, my coaching practice there from my Shut the Junk Up book, or it's from my guests, art therapy, neurographic therapy. Go check that shit out. But decompress, like I said, and check out Welcome to Derry. I'm not being plugged. Well, I am plugging, but I'm not being paid to plug. So you know, if I'm saying it, it's true. We love you guys, man. Hit that.
Thank you for tuning in to Talking Junk.